Perfect. Thank you.
No
Great.
problem. All right, fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Kelly, and
You're
welcome
so
to our
welcome.
space as well.
Absolutely. I'm so glad. I feel blessed to be here. Thank you, brother.
Hotep. All right. Carly, if you'd like to start us off with one of our first questions here. Now, remember, class, we're going to be taking notes together on what our distinguished Mama Catherine has to say to us.
Okay, our first question is, where were you born?
I can't hear you. Speak up a little.
Where were you born?
Where?
Yes.
I was born in King Street. That's KINGSTREE, South Carolina. Now, one of the particular things or peculiar things about that birth is my birth was not recorded the day I was born. My birth was recorded 2 days later. Rather than being recorded 1939 as the year, it was recorded as 1940. But 95% of African Americans were not born in hospitals or places where they kept good records. So many people my age have a problem or had a problem identifying their time or date or year of birth. So I guess that's it. Any other questions?
Yes. Can you tell us about your childhood?
Oh,
May I ask a question, please?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. My childhood. Well, it's not uncommon. I lived in the country, a rural area, they're calling it now. But at the time, we just thought it was just a complete little village. So I did not know that I lived in a rural area. I learned that later in life. We lived on a farm. My parents, we were not sharecroppers, but we were right next door to sharecroppers. What we did, my family inherited some land. So the land was divided among the brothers, and each brother had a portion to farm. And in addition to that, they rented the land, and we planted, my parents planted tobacco, cotton, corn, peas, cucumbers, watermelons, and all sorts of vegetables. So from an early age, I worked on the farm. Everybody did something. From feeding, when I was 5, I fed the chickens until I was old enough to start working in the farms, which was around about 8. I started, we started by doing what we call handing tobacco. And that tobacco was used to make those terrible Camel cigarettes. As a matter of fact, was used to make a lot of cigarettes, but we were handing tobacco, and that tobacco was sold and made into cigarettes. And we also picked cotton. And of course, that cotton was made into fabric, thread, and many other things. The corn was basically for the consumption of the farm animals, and such as the pigs, the cow, the horse or mule. So that's what the corn was used for. And some people use it to make what you all may not know. They use some of it to make illegal corn liquor. Now, that was an illegal drink, and you were always being chased by the police if you were known to make illegal corn liquor. But some people did do it. We didn't. My parents didn't, but it was one of the things that we knew about, but we didn't talk about it. I started to school at age 5 because my cousin, which is Mary Isbell, who will record for you at a later time, she started. And at the time, our mothers did not want us, one to go to school. So since we were the oldest cousins, we started together, and I started with her. So I started to school a bit early. And we went, I started at a school. I had gone to a one-room school with my earlier cousins, but I had never gone there to learn anything. I had gone as a visitor, and they went out in away from the main school, which was a two-room school, which was pretty common in many of the areas that African Americans live. They had two schools, and the teacher taught all the grades, and the grades were usually from 1 through 4. And then another teacher taught from 4 through 8. So the teachers had two schools, but they had to teach 4 classes on 4 levels. But fortunately, I just visited those schools. I was able to go to a high school at that time that was provided to the African American community by a philanthropist from Sears and Roebuck. And the name of my school was the Tomlinson High School. The philanthropist was Julius Rosenwald, who was an executive for Sears and Roebuck. I attended that school from 1st grade through the 8th grade. I left South Carolina because I did not like to pick cotton. And I was very stubborn about it. And that's putting it mildly. I was adamant about it. I did not want to do that work, and I wasn't going to do it. So I guess as they say, a kid who had a mind, and that mind could not be changed because I could see no purpose in working the farm. And there was no prospect of ever earning a decent living. You couldn't make it pay for you because you were always under paid, no matter, and you were always in too much debt. And every year my parents said we didn't make any money because we were in debt. I couldn't see where we had any debt. And my mind was always curious, and I couldn't comprehend that. So of course I objected. So I was allowed to come to first I went to my grandfather in DC, and then my grandfather took me to his sister, which was my Aunt Flossie in Philly, and she got me into Overbrook High School. When I got to Overbrook High School, I was in the 9th grade, but they wanted to put me in the 8th grade. So my Aunt Flossie said, no, put her in the 9th grade. They said, well, she can't keep up coming from a rural school and, making a prejudgment that I did not have the ability to keep up. They wanted to, put me back. So my aunt said, no. She just said, no, put her in the regular classes. And then if she doesn't do well, we'll put her back. I got in the regular classes. The first semester was an adjustment time for me. And, when you transfer from another school, you have to become familiar with the the way things are presented to you and what you are accustomed to in your environment that you came from. So the first thing that they did was give me, at that time, what they call an IQ test. And that test was supposed to determine your ability to do anything. Just, I don't know what it was based on, but it was called an IQ test. Anyway, I took the IQ test, and apparently I failed the IQ test, but I was never told that.
Mm.
But anyway, I did I caught on to how the teaching strategy. I studied real hard, and I was a student I was in the head of my class, and I had always been in the head of my class. My cousin and I, we were always at the head of our classes. So it was uncomfortable for me to be in another position because I hadn't been in that position, my life. But anyway, I made the adjustment, studied hard, and in the ninth grade, my grades were, I didn't get any D's, but I got all C's, and I wasn't used to that. I was used to having all A's. So the 10th grade, I really buckled down, and I studied and I studied and I learned and I read and I did everything. I tried to participate in class, but I was always overlooked. Didn't bother me. That didn't bother me. Anyway, at the time for testing, I always aced my tests. So my test was always in the high 90s. And I believe at that time, I think the second semester in the 10th grade, I made the honor roll. And I was called back to my counselor's office, and I was told that my IQ test did not suggest that I could be an honor roll student. I was very insulted.
Mm.
And the reason for that, I realize now, is that I had come from a school that was, I guess, not considered a school where students would be successful. And to a degree that might have been true, but they were always striving to be successful. And the reason that many of them weren't successful wasn't because they could not learn, it was because the opportunities were not there for them to have that capacity to achieve and do better. The next, so anyway, the counselor and I talked, and I being a person who always spoke out, even if it was the wrong time, I told her I disagreed with her, and that I felt that I did have the capacity to be on the honor roll. And anyway, we got into a heated dispute about my achieving the honor roll capacity, which I thought was nothing. At that time, it was just something that I was striving to do. It didn't mean anything to me except that it was something I wanted to do. Anyway, the 11th grade, I did the same things, but of course the teachers I became a target. Now I realize I became a target because I was not supposed to be on the honor roll at Overbrook High School. That was that, and I didn't realize that until I got out of school, and years later, it didn't matter. I didn't have the capacity to go to school, go to college at that time. But I always had the desire to go. So anyway, I went to work. I worked a few, I guess about a year or so, and I got married. And I didn't go to school until my children were in school, and I started taking a few classes at community college. And I took a few classes when community college opened in 1965, I believe. That's when I started taking a few classes, about 1966, 67. I took one class at a time. And then I liked it. So then my desire, I said, well, I'm going to finish community college. So I would work during the day, and I would go to school, community college, about, I guess, maybe 2 hours at night, which included my class and my traveling time. And I would usually go maybe one night a week. I did that, I guess, from 1967 or 68, I can't remember exactly which year, until 1973, and I got enough credits to get my community college degree in applied science. And I got that, and then I worked for, I guess, maybe around 15 years, and I worked in healthcare. So I was one of the few people that worked in the office where we gathered data for the CDC. And I was one of the data gatherers. And we sent information, about diseases in the population, the diseases we were seeing, and all that data would go to the CDC on a routine basis. I participated in data collection for various medical studies. I would pull the information so that the researcher could make the determinations that they needed to make to complete their database. I liked my work. I really like my work, and I rarely missed a day. In the meantime, I raised 4 children. My daughter became a registered nurse. One of my sons became a roofer, and the 2 younger sons went into the military. And they all graduated from Philadelphia during the time of the gang wars. I was a very strict mother, but it paid off. After they went in, after that, everyone was out of the house, and they were on their way. I found this. I was a lifelong learner, to tell the truth, and I found this group that were doing classes at Lincoln University in human services and counseling for substance abuse counseling. So I decided I wanted to join that group. So I applied, did all the legwork, and I was accepted. I had to take some extra classes in writing, and I think I had to take classes in public speaking, things like that. And then I did my regular work that the course required. And that took me about, I believe it took me 2 years. And I finished that, and I got my master's in human services. And and finished that at 50. I was 50 when I graduated from Lincoln University. And then here I am. I worked another few years in the area that I had trained in, which was data gathering, coding. They called it, at that time, we called it coding. Now we call it data information technology. But it was limited to the medical information that they gathered in hospitals and healthcare sites and things like that. And then people would make determination based on the information that people like me would submit on a monthly basis. Either we did it on a monthly basis or we did it every 6 months. But in my case, we did our information submission on a monthly basis. And I worked in that area for 39 and a half years. I retired at age 70. And here I am. I still read a lot. I like to travel. But because of the COVID, my travel has been restricted. But I've been to Africa about 8 times. I've been to South America. I've been to Brazil. And that's the scope of my travel. So now I'm retired as an 81-year-old African-American woman. I sit in my chair and watch the news all day. Now, are there any questions?
Well, Mama Catherine, this is amazing, and I can't wait even to hear more about the places you've traveled. Carly does have some more questions for you. Some of them you may have already covered, so feel free to sort of explain. Oh, I've answered this already, or and scholars, feel free to give some thumbs up, some reactions here. I saw Dr. Kelly giving a heart. I mean, this is amazing. Insight that Mama Catherine's and raising that many children. There's so many, so much we can learn here. So Carla, you can go ahead. You can ask your next question.
What hobbies did you pursue as a kid?
What did she say?
What hobbies did you pursue as a kid?
Well, as a kid, we didn't have time for hobbies. We made up our games. We played softball. We played hopscotch. We played, of course, all of these things were improvised. Tell her we improvised a lot. We played I don't know whether they heard this game called Ring Around the Rosies. We had about maybe 10 cousins, and every Sunday afternoon we would gather at one of the houses and we would play these games. The boys played marbles and the girls played games that were hopscotch, volleyball, Ring Around the Roses, and everybody went around a tree, and whoever got tagged, that person was it. And we called it Ring Around the Roses. I don't know what the kids call it up here. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions? I had farm pets. We had farm pets. I had a duck as a farm pet. And I had to take care of the duck, but up here the kids have dogs. The dog was considered a vital part of the farm tool because it was the dog's responsibility to keep the wild animals away, or at least warn that wild animals were coming, like foxes or foxes were good to come to farms because they like to eat the chickens, and the chickens were a vital part of our food supply. So that was not that we couldn't play with the dog. We had to have a duck or a pig or something like that. Any
Excellent.
other questions?
Rodney, I saw you raised your hand. Did you have a question, a follow-up question?
Yes. What did your siblings do for a
Okay,
living?
I was the oldest. I was the oldest. All of my siblings at the time graduated from high school. One attended the next oldest sibling to me was a boy. He attended a technical school in South Carolina and became electrical engineer. He didn't have the full degree, but he had a technical degree. And my brother was able to work on the Sputnik, not on Sputnik, but he worked in that area. At that time, he worked on the space radio. He had a security clearance. He is deceased presently, but he was one of the Black radio engineers that was responsible for the radio communication on the spaceship, which was launched shortly after the Russian Sputnik was launched. For a long time, I did not know that he worked with NASA, because we knew he worked, but we didn't know where he worked. And then I learned later that he could not, really tell us what he was doing. But he was one of the African American people that was responsible for getting that radio communications. My other brother they were all in the military, except two. I had 6 brothers and 1 sister. All of them were in the Vietnam War. I had 4 brothers in the Vietnam War. 2 did not go, and my sister, she moved to Rochester, New York. We all left the South after graduating from school, but I did not stay to graduate. I left early, and they left after they graduated from school. So they all got jobs working at various places. One worked in the Kodak. They worked at various industries, where they were living at the time.
So excellent. Thank you so much, Mama Catherine. I think we're going to move. Zamir has some questions for you too.
Okay.
So Zamir, whenever you're ready, now that we've found out a little bit about Mama Catherine's background and some of her schooling and moving up to Philadelphia, if you can ask some of the questions that you prepared beforehand.
Okay. What do you know now that you wish you know when you were younger?
I wish I had known about the opportunities that are available to African Americans. At that time, we had very little access or none. I can't recall any, but maybe my cousin can when she gets on. We were not told, about colleges. We weren't prepared for colleges. We weren't given, we didn't have what today in many schools they have, what I guess I would call them college. You have people who will tell you about various types of opportunities available to you. For example, when I was young, I wanted to be a nurse. That was my first inclination, but I really didn't know what entailed, what I needed to do to be a nurse. I didn't know what that entailed. All I knew it was something I heard and I wanted to do it.
Mm.
I had no one to tell me that you would need to go to school at least 2 or 3 years at that time in order to get a degree. And there were no facilities available so that I could, take the training. So I wish as I grew up that I was offered an opportunity to explore more things, more, more, m- like, my brother decided to go to electrical school. He was the only African American in the school at the time. At that time, he had no support. I did not learn that till later. He had no support. And it was very hard trying to adjust. I don't know how he did it, but it was very hard for him to be a young man away from home, trying to study and nobody to say, okay, I didn't get this today. Did you get it? How can we work together? You know what I mean? So I wish the children at that time or my generation had more opportunities to pursue, just to pursue and really develop to their fullest potential. Most people did not develop to their fullest potential because they lost the will to achieve. That will to strive, the will to achieve, the will to say, I'm going to keep going no matter what. Most of them just gave up. And that was, a lot of the children from my generation. Even though a lot did strive to do better, many of them just gave up because they didn't have that extra push. Anything else? Did I explain that clear?
Yes, I have more questions now.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and scholars, just a note, make sure you're taking notes, just getting some of this great information down, and also try to make sure that you're speaking up because we are recording the session. So Mama Catherine is doing an amazing job modeling that. So just when you ask Mama Catherine a question, please make sure that you're speaking into your mic as much as possible. All right, you're all set, Samir. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
It's kind of gonna sound weird, but I was gonna say, what's your meaning of life?
Oh, what's my meaning of life? Well, in retrospect, as when you're young, you think, oh, everything is you want instant, you want everything to come to you instantly, okay? You go out, you say, I want this pair of shoes. Well, if you have the money, you go and buy it. Now,
Y'all hear
I
me?
have lived long enough
Yes.
to know, that when you prepare yourself, and this is another thing that I had to learn, you prepare yourself first. You have to make, or you should make choices that will build your life solidly. And if you fall, you're not discouraged and won't get back up, because you are going to make missteps. But permanent missteps. Your life or if my life could have been I'm not sorry for the way it was, but I feel if my life had been more if I didn't run into so many roadblocks, or if my life, there were times when I wish I had people to tell me, listen, you're making a mistake. Or if I were you, I wouldn't do that. I think I may have accomplished, now I'm not upset about what I've done, but I think if I just had that little hand to say, okay, you shouldn't do that because these are the consequences of a bad choice. And I think today, I think if I had the opportunity, I may have been a judge, what's the Ginsburg?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yeah, Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah, because, but I didn't have, because I love the law and I love, I just like that type, but I did not have the opportunity. Matter of fact, I did not know anything about law school. And this is what I'm saying about not having available resources that you are introduced early in life about certain things. You know what I mean? Certain perspectives or certain lifestyles or certain professions or certain careers. You know what I'm saying? I wish that I had that opportunity. I more or less found my way through hit and miss. You know, I would read something, or I would say, oh, like getting into the area that I worked in for 40 years, there were very few African American females in that in that particular job. And the ones that were in the job worked for the federal government. I saw no one in private that worked in the job. So I was like, oh, I didn't know, you know, this area of work was available. So I tried it. I liked it. So I guess that's how does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Excuse me?
I say yes, thank you.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Um, Throughout your entire life, what was the most memorable event that you witnessed?
In my what? In what?
Throughout your life, your entire life, what was the
Uh-huh.
most memorable event you witnessed?
Oh. Okay, the most memorable was when my daughter graduated from nursing school from Einstein Medical Center. Einstein had a school of nursing and she graduated. She was one of the few African American females that graduated. I was very happy. The second most memorable event was when my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, won a full scholarship to the University of Richmond and completed the 4 years in 4 years and graduated with no student debt. I was happy. No student debt. And in 4 years and a full scholarship. Does that help you?
Yes, it does.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it does.
Okay. I had another memorial, another good experience too. And I think I should share this. The first time I went to Africa, I was overwhelmed. I cannot find the words to tell you what I felt when I went to Goree Island for the first time. I was in tears for an hour. It was the sand spoke to me, and I still have sand in my home from Goree Island. And those are the three great times that I could recall right off the top of my head. And after that, I was hooked on going to Africa. And I would go every 2 years at least until my knees gave out and I don't walk as good as I should anymore. But I would go.
Well, Mama Catherine, it looks like Rodney has another question just to follow up.
Okay.
Yes. What was your favorite things to do throughout life?
I like to cook. I like to fix big dinners and we sit around and have a good time and eat. I like to cook. I like to make things with my hand. And right now, since I've been on COVID lockdown, I've read close to 50 books. I'm currently reading The Coming Plague. This past week, I finished Bakari Sellers' My Vanishing Country. I have Pass here. I'm getting ready to read. I read Henrietta Lacks' story. I love reading, and I started reading when we were on lockdown from March. I believe it was March 15th or 18th or somewhere around there. I had about 5 books in the house that I needed to read. I read all 5 in the first 6, 7 days. And so then I had to get my granddaughter to get me some books from the library. So that's what I like to do.
Mama Catherine, this is our actually English language arts class. So you have no idea how happy it makes me to hear you say that reading is a favorite pastime.
Yes, yes.
It looks like we have a question from Carly, then we'll come back to Rodney and then Zamir after.
Okay.
What were some of your dreams and goals that you wanted to achieve?
Some of my do's and what?
Your dreams and goals.
Oh, at this age, my dreams are, listen, I'm 81, so don't take that in consideration. My knees are not working so well, so it's only so far I can go. But one of my dreams is I would like to go to Ghana, taking my walk and everything. I would like to do that trip to Ghana. But that's about it. My goal now is just to keep healthy and keep my eyesight because I like to read. So it's there, from your viewpoint, they may not seem important, but from my viewpoint and my age, walking and keeping my eyesight and keeping my health, that's what I do now. I've become a health nut. I try to keep my weight in check. Do my medical appointments and things like that. So, and of course, I'm trying to learn the computer again. Okay.
Well, you're doing a great job. Rodney, you can go ahead, and then we'll go to Zamir. Thank you, Carly.
Okay. What is your message to this generation and the generation now? I meant and the next generation.
My message is learn your history and who you are. Who you are. We've had, as a group of people, we've had a lot of trauma, both physical and mental. But the way to cure our trauma is to find out where we came from, the truth, who we are. And, you know, stop, learn about yourself and learn about how you connect to other people. That's all. Know yourself, know thyself, know yourself, know who you are, and you will be comfortable in yourself. And love yourself. Love others, but love yourself.
Okay, my next question.
Okay?
I can ask my next question.
Yes, yes.
Okay. If you could write a message to each of your children and your grandchildren and put it in a time capsule for them to read in 20 years from now, what would you write to each?
Wow, that's a deep one. Let me think a minute. What would I write to each? In a time capsule for 20 years?
Yes, your grandchildren and your regular children.
They're my great-grandchildren. Well, I always taught my children that they may not be leaders, but you should never be a follower if you don't know why you're following a person. Always ask questions. Always ask questions. Always do your own reading and research. Learn from one another, but learn from other sources as well. And always remember, nothing is free. If someone tells you to do something, in most cases, question why. Always why. Never be a blind follower. I guess that's what I would say. Never, always question why. And first learn who you are. I guess that's what I would say.
Okay, I have another one then.
Go ahead.
Do you have any special family traditions?
Family traditions?
Yes.
Well, our family traditions now is we have family reunions every 2 years. We go back to the village of Kingstree or town of Kingstree, and we try to get our young people together. And my cousins, the ones in my age bracket, we tell them the stories of our family. We tell them the stories, and we ask them to participate or bring information which they have achieved in every 2 years. And this is something that's done so that the children will learn who they are, keep in touch with each other, and know each other from one generation to the other generation. Like I'm in the older generation now, so a lot of times I will put family information together, and we will distribute this information to the family members, so that, you know, they may not appreciate it now, but when they get older, they'll say, oh, this is what this cousin did, or this is what that cousin did, or at the time this cousin went to say this cousin was in Brazil, or this cousin was in Djibouti, or this cousin was in whatever, you know. So that's what we do now. And the other tradition is that before I lost my ability to walk real well, I used to have family get-togethers every New Year. We had a huge, I would have huge family dinners, and everybody would get together with each other. But since I haven't been able to walk, I still sort of talk to everybody, but no one has taken up the tradition yet. But that's what we do. Anything else?
Carly or Rodney, do you have any other questions?
Zamir, oh, go ahead, Rodney.
I have one on if you don't have one already.
Yes, Summer, you can go ahead. I'm still thinking.
Have you ever experienced racism? Did you hear me?
I didn't hear you.
I said, did you ever experience racism?
Of course.
Mm.
But I didn't know it was racism.
Can you tell us like what happened?
Huh?
Can you explain like what happened? Like tell us a story.
Okay. Well, of course I went to a segregated school, but at the time, see, what the African American families did, and I'm just coming to realize that the elders in the African American family at that time, during the time that I grew up, they never spoke of racism like we do today. They never spoke of Jim Crow. They never spoke of like, for example, I didn't have the opportunities to learn about various professions or things because there was no one there to tell me. No one was there to tell me on purpose. That was a racism in itself, because we were not given the same opportunities. For example, when I started to school, my cousin and I had to walk to school. Our mothers would take us in the wagon every morning when we were too little to walk, and we were two little girls. We weren't allowed to walk through certain neighborhoods, but we didn't know that. They would take us and they would come and get us, my mother and her mother. At that time, I didn't know that we weren't supposed to go to school. That was a racism that we were shielded from. When I was about 8 years old, at that time, it was my cousin, myself, my brother, my next cousin, and another cousin. I think it was about 5 of us. At that time, we were allowed to walk to school, but we had to walk through a village of Caucasians. At that time, we did not know that we weren't supposed to go to school. So what they would do is they would sick their dogs on us. So we would run, but we didn't run away from school. We ran towards the school.
Mm.
And every day every morning, the collie and this beagle would chase us. And so we were complaining about it to our parents, but they said, don't pay that any mind, just go on. They didn't explain to us that the dogs were being sicked upon us because we were going to school. We did not know that. So anyway, being who I am, I got tired of running. And I told my cousin, I said, I'm not running anymore. I said, why are those dogs coming all the way across that field to chase us? She said, I don't know. Well, anyway, being me, I got tired of running. So I got 2 long sticks, like you have hockey sticks or pucky sticks or, long hockey sticks. I got 2 sticks and I put one in on one side of the ditch and one on the other side. And the dog chased me. I hit the dog and I hit the dog on the nose. If you hit a dog on their nose, it's a very sensitive part. And that dog will never attack you, even a pit bull. But you have to bust him right on the nose. I hit the dog on the nose and the dog screamed and ran away. And that dog never chased us again, and we went to school.
How did you get so close to it if it was chasing you? Well, now
Well,
that you said
listen, you know how long a hockey stick is?
yes.
That's the length that that's how close I was to the dog, because I didn't run and the dog was trying to jump in my face. When the dog tried to jump in my face, I had to stick the length of a hockey stick, and that's when I crashed. I hit the dog in the nose.
Was the person you with, did they run?
My cousins ran, but they stopped. But the man who was sicking the dog on us, and I didn't know this at the time, he was an adult Caucasian, and I didn't know this. He screamed at me, and I was scared to death. He called me out of my name, and he said, "You hit my dog." And he called me out of my name. I thought he was going to kill me, but I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to do that. I didn't know that I could have gotten murdered because I hit his dog. But he never set the dog on me again. But he called me out of my name, and then all my cousins, they stopped and they waited for me to see what he was going to do. But he didn't do anything but call me all kinds of names, derogatory names. Of course, he called me the N-word, and he called me the little nappy-headed girl, and he said all kinds of things to me. But at the time, I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about going to school and keeping the dog off of me. So that was one of the worst experiences that I had in my life. And to this day, I don't like collies. I don't like any dogs. And I don't have a dog. But it was very traumatic for me, very traumatic. And I can still see that dog in my mind today, springing for my face. He was going to attack. And that's when I took that stick, about the length of a hockey stick. And I did not miss his nose. And I hit his nose, and the dog screamed. And my cousin will tell you the same story, Mary Isful. She will tell you the same story.
I have another question if you're ready.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever met anyone in life who changed your perspective on life?
Well, I'll tell you, my Aunt Flossie did. She always told me, don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. You can do it. she always said, you have a brain. She always would say, God gave you a brain just like anybody else. So when somebody tell you you can't, you prove them wrong. Do it.
Mm.
You like that perspective?
Yes. Scholars, feel free to chime in too. I mean, what do you think of that perspective?
I like it.
I think
Oh yeah, please chime in. And then we have a question here too. Were you related to the Brockingtons?
I don't know. I haven't done that DNA. There was my grandmother, my aunt on my father's side was a Brockington. See, the Brockington plantation was how we, because we didn't have really landmarks, that's how we would kind of tell you where we lived. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like we would say we lived in King Street, but we live on the road to the Brockington plantation, you know, so we would just call it the Brockington village. But I'm sure there's some type of if social relationship there, but I just don't know the full story yet.
Mm.
Why? What do you know about the Brockingtons?
Well, that was a question from, it looks like Sister Mama Marilyn Lark.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
I worked with a Brockington, and she lived off of King Street, and that's what made me think, oh, I wonder if she's related. So that's why I asked that question.
Well, you know, like I said, we could be, but if not by blood, we could be, I always say by village or by social, because you know, at that time, African Americans took the names of the plantation owner.
Correct.
So we may be related through one common ancestor, or we may just be socially related because we all live near or close, on that plantation. Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Any other questions?
Any other
And,
questions or
and
comments?
listen, and let me tell you, racism was always there, but I did not recognize it. And it did not, it wasn't a thing that I always had. I didn't waste my time worrying about somebody else spending their life hating me. I didn't have time for that. And I still don't. I just, that's their problem. So I don't have time for that. But it can mangle your life, and you have to be aware of that. You just have to be aware of that. But you just can't give up because and constantly blame somebody else. What you do is you get them to move their foot. And that's my idea, Just get them to move their foot and do what you need to do. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one more. Yeah.
Go ahead.
What advice would you give the younger generation?
I think someone asked me that. Listen, I said, learn who you are, know yourself. When somebody tells you you can't do it, you tell yourself, I can do it. I can do. You know that song James Brown had? Remember the song? James Brown said, I don't want anybody to give me nothing. Open up that door, I'll get it myself. Do you all know that song or no? I'm sure Marilyn have heard it. Right, Marilyn?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Open the door, I'll get it myself. But you have to prepare yourself. Anything else?
Yes. Where's it? What do you think we should do more as a culture to unite?
Oh, that's a tough one because what we're doing now is good. The old connecting to the young.
Mm,
That's one way. That's an excellent way. Because the reason I say that, there are many, many points. See, it's a fracture. It's a terrible fracture in us as human beings. And one of the reasons we have this terrible fracture is racism. And it's the big lie, or part of the big lie. And because it's like an infection, it is, or cancer, it is deep within us, and we are unconsciously unaware of the things that we might do or say could be hurtful to each other. And that's within the African American community as well as without. So we have to start, and it's not going to be accomplished in my lifetime, but we have to start somewhere. And I think making the younger people aware of the past, admitting that, yes, we were wrong in the past. We contributed to what we have today. We laid the framework unconsciously. Some of it was conscious, some of it was unconscious, but some of it was policy, some of it was law, but it happened.
mm,
So in some of it was, within our homes. Some of it was without. But it is a huge splintered problem. And we're not, in most of our lifetimes, we can become closer, and we can all have a common goal.
mm.
But how we get there is a different story. And whether we're going to come, you said African Americans come together, right? See, one thing we have to understand, African Americans as a whole suffered a lot of trauma. The trauma of racism, the trauma of enslavement, just trauma, just so much. And some of this trauma is passed on from generation to generation. Some of these policies and practices are from generation to generation. The thing we have to do is confront our demons. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard for me. And when you asked me, did I experience racism? I did, but that is not a part that I dwell on. But it was very hard. It's very hard. And but you have to talk about it. If you don't talk about it and you try to say, oh, well, we're going to pass over, that didn't happen, you're not going to get anywhere, because just like an infection that doesn't heal, we have an infection within and without. The infection is getting bigger and worse, but until someone says, we need to talk, we need to heal, we need our young people to know that they stand on the shoulders of people who paid a huge price. They paid in the denial of their fullest potential. They weren't,
Ashe.
excuse me?
Amen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they were denied their fullest potential.
Mhm.
So when our young people see an older person, now I'm not going to say all old people will give you good advice. But you have to know, you have to learn. There are some people who will give you good advice, and there are some people who will lead you astray. But that's why you have to find early in your life and be grounded and learning who you are.
Mm.
Our ancestors were denied the ability to achieve what they could have achieved. And when they were smart enough to combine their resources and for the betterment of the village, they were in many ways challenged. That challenge was in Rosewood, Florida. The challenge was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The challenge was in Wilmington, North Carolina, just to name a few. These people banded together, combined their resources to work for the good of their community, specifically African American. They were destroyed. They were bombed. Nothing was done. Nothing.
Mm.
And many of our young people have no idea that they said, well, what can we do to come together? If you don't know that many of your ancestors did try to come together, you have the idea that they didn't. They did. They were denied the right to come together. They were denied the right to develop their industry. They were denied the right to their fullest potential. They were and so when people are denied the right, they lose their ability to hope.
Mm.
In many cases, we have lost our ability to hope. As Jesse Jackson said, keep hope alive.
Mm.
It's very deep. When you destroy that ability to hope, then you have a group of broken people, traumatically injured people. So we have to know our history. We have to know what happened to our ancestors. We have to know that 200,000 Black troops saved 4 million enslaved Africans in the South. We have to know that. 200,000 brave souls. It wasn't just a movie. It was more than a movie. When you look at I think the movie is called Glory or 354, Glory. When you look at that movie, 200,000 soldiers approximately took on the burden because they had the vision to realize that their people would gain something if they did something. So they made the sacrifice. And we have to keep in mind, we did not get where we are on our own. We stand on the shoulders of many, many martyrs, known and unknown. So Did I say enough?
Mama Catherine, you said more than enough. You've inspired us. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and you are one of those giants. So we can't thank you enough for coming in today and giving us just such great advice and teaching us about just history and our history and our story and keeping hope alive and what we can do. And just this advice, I know I'm going to hold on to it, and I know many of the scholars are too. Scholars, if you just want to come off mute real quick and just thank Mama Catherine in your own words.
Mr. Porterfield,
Yes.
this is Regina Vaughn. I'm the president of ASALH,
Oh, thank you.
Association for the Study of African American Life and History. That was
Welcome.
my that was our vice president, Marilyn Lark, speaking. And I'm sitting like the kids texting, Marilyn, get on the call. Catherine is killing it. On the
Mama
side.
Vaughn, can you get on camera
I
just
feel
a
like
little
she just
bit
took me to
more?
church.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm just a little bit better than Catherine. Let's see.
No, just tilt your device just a little bit so that we can,
All right.
thank you, ma'am. Yes,
So I'm on,
perfect.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Scholars as well. Make sure those devices are up so we can see your
Yeah.
faces.
And so on Sunday, I'm sending this to Dr. Kelly, and I'm wondering, I said, is this poor teacher? Because see, I've done this work. And so I'm feeling sorry for you to prepare your students, but most of all, your scholars. I'm so proud of you students. And because I knew this was like, I'm getting choked up. I knew you needed to hear this story. I knew you needed to hear her. So I'm just so proud of you as a teacher, Dr. Kelly, sending emails at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm proud of you students doing your assignments. You're going to go far. You're going to go far. I'm just,
Mama Vaughn.
Thank you so much.
And if I may, Mama Vaughn is the person that's carrying on the torch that was lit originally by Carter G. Woodson. So every morning we pour a libation to Carter G. Woodson. And so Carter G. Woodson created this organization that in our region, we have actually 2 Asalas in the region. And Mama Vaughn is the president of one of those Asalas in the region. So we just want to thank Mama Vaughn so much and Mama Lark, Mama Marilyn for also continuing that very wonderful work. So,
and we operate on the executive team, and Catherine Holloman is our treasurer. And she said she didn't know the computer. Well, March of the pandemic, she has now went from no computer to buying a laptop, So she lives the words, scholars, that she's telling you. So now she's up to email, and you see she was on the call for me.
awesome.
Thank you, Mama Regina.
I'm still learning.
I love it. I love
Ashe.
it, being a lifelong learner. Thank God.
Dr. Kelly, do you have any closing words for us? Scholars, I would appreciate you just coming off mute for a second and just saying thank you, even if it's all at once.
Thank you.
I know I learned a lot, and
Thank you.
thank you for those questions.
Thank you.
Indeed. And so, scholars, can we do that in the Sankofa way? I know that we're we haven't been able to circle up in this kind of way, but if we could give our Mama Catherine Holloman a good job, that would be very wonderful. All right, so who's gonna help me? Who's gonna support me?
We could do a Harambe.
Oh, we could do around base too. But I think from the scholar standpoint, this is something that that lets you know from the scholar standpoint, it's kind of an enthusiastic version. So who's gonna back me up? Who's gonna back me up with a good job?
Wait, it's like good job.
Good job. Yes. Yep. Y'all ready?
ready?
Moja and Billy Tattoo. Good job, good job.
Good job.
Good job, good job. GOODJOB, good job, good job. You know you did a good job, so say you did a good job. You know you did a good job, so say you did a good job. You did a good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. GOODJOB, good job, good job. Brother Samir, you're supposed to back me up, brother.
I saw Alex clapping there, but I think he was on mute. But I saw Alex clapping.
I saw some claps.
All
But Mama
right,
Catherine,
and
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Great job.
Great
Great job, everybody. Great job, everybody.
Thank you, Brother Daniel. Thank you so much. And this was the first of, so we're gonna have 2 more of these sessions where our elders come in. And so I thank you all so much for your preparation. We're going to do a little bit of a debrief and some debriefing of the things that went great and the ways that we're gonna do even better next time.
Right.
And,
Okay.
Asante
All right.
Sana.
Well, I'm the first run, so let me know how I did. Okay.
Excellent. Excellent.
Good
Excellent.
job. Good
Excellent.
job.
Excellent.
Hey,
Excellent.
hey,
Mama, you were
hey.
phenomenal.
Always.
We just trying to get our weight up. We trying to get our weight up. That's what that
Yes,
is.
yes. We love you. Great job.
Yes, that was a
Amazing.
great job. Great job.
All
Asante
right.
Sana, Dr. Kelly, and everyone involved.
All right.
Okay.
Asante Sana.
Absolutely.
Sante Sana.
Absolutely.
Sante, Sante. Okay.
All right, family. Have a phenomenal rest of your day.
All righty.
Will do.
Brother Dean,
Yes, Amir. I saw your
I-
chat.
I answered most of my questions. I just didn't answer like one or like two of them, I think.
No, you did a great job, and you were interviewing, so that was your focus. So you're all set in that regard. So everyone else, you can share a copy of your notes with me, but I know that Zamir and Carly were my primary interviewers, so you're good, Zamir, and as well as Tavian, if you can maybe send your notes to Dr. Kelly as well, and Nasir too. So we'll have those to reference back to, and you can add myself as well.
I would love that. And so, and also the questioners, please make sure you're on camera, because like I mentioned, we're on, so we're actually taping these for posterity. So you want to be able to look back in 2030, you know, when you have graduated from college and everything else, that, wow, that's something that I did when I was in 8th grade. And that's a very wonderful thing. All right, family.
Absolutely.
So have a great rest of your day. Oh, did anyone have any questions for me?
I'm going to leave.
Oh, bye, Mama
Okay,
Catherine. Thank you
Okay,
so
bye.
much.
Okay,
Peace,
bye.
Mama Catherine. Appreciate you.
Yes. Okay, you bear with me. I'm still learning this computer.
You
No
got it, Mama
problem.
Catherine.
Let me see.
There's usually a leave button on the
one
bottom
of,
right hand.
Yeah, I'm finding it. Okay. All right.
One of my new heroes here.
Okay, leave. Okay. Let's see. What does it say here?
Are you sure you want to leave?
Yes.
Click yes
Yes.
or okay.
Let me see. Oh, gosh.
Got it.
All right.
Oh, no, she didn't.
No. Wait a minute.
We just we want to keep spending time with you,
bear
Mama
with
Catherine.
me.
It's fine. It's fine.
Not letting
Listen.
you leave.
You're magnetized to the Sankofa family.
Well, that's a good family, but I just want to, there's so
I love it. Did anyone have any questions for me?
All right, just to reinforce what Dr. Kelly said, we want to make sure that we're being loud in the meetings, just so that everyone can be heard. So just make sure that, like, when I say loud, I mean talking your mic and having your camera on. We want to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. Yep, Brother
So-
Daniel is modeling it right now, so head and shoulders, and we can hear everything that he says. So almost project, and I know that sometimes we're in homes where other things are going on. Just let your family know that you have some special guests, and you might be a little louder than normal.
Oh, Dr. Kelly, I have a
Mhm.
question. What's your email for
Certainly.
Tavian? He wants to send in
Absolutely.
his notes.
I'll drop it in the chat for everyone. It's k.mickens@sfacs.us.
Excellent. And many of you have known Dr. Kelly from around Sankofa, and she put a lot of work into even that note form we were taking. So thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Absolutely. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. All right, family. I'm looking forward to our other two sessions with our elders too.
Before Dr. Kelly goes, if we can, I know it's tough to interact in this medium the same way we would as if we were all together, but if you enjoyed this, if you got something from what Mom and Catherine said, could you put a thumbs up in the reactions? Just give us some thumbs. So you can put them in reactions, or you can use your participant button too. I'm seeing some thumbs come in. So thank you for those thumbs, scholars. And I believe we're all set. So next we'll go on to Of Mice and Men. We have a little bit of time left in class. So I'll just summarize something for you real quick.
All right, family. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Brother Daniel.
Oh, Carly, you have a question?
Can I go
Oh.
to the bathroom?
Yes, you may. Actually, you know what? We'll do, yeah, you can go to the bathroom.